I'm not just doing that crazy look for no reason. I'm doing that because Lon Chaney Jr. does this quite a bit in tonight's Frightening Friday flick. Tonight's spooky review is Indestructible Man, and it came out in 1956. I would classify tonight's spooky review as a horror slash science fiction slash noir film. And it's horror because it has horror aspects to it, science fiction because it has some science fiction, like I'll get to that when I talk about the plot, and then it's noir because it's told from the perspective of the detective who's basically trying to solve the case. Indestructible Man, it stars Lon Chaney Jr., and it also stars a man named Max Showalter. Max Showalter plays the detective, and Lon Chaney Jr. plays the Indestructible Man. And this film was released on a double bill actually in 1956 with Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So the story of this movie is Indestructible Man is Lon Chaney Jr. He is a convicted felon, and they are putting him to death. And he basically says, I'm going to come back some way or another and have revenge on the people who put me in here, basically his old buddies, because his old buddies who he committed crimes with, they're still running free, and he's taking the rap for all the crimes that they did for the large sum of money that they stole. So he's saying, I'm going to kill you one way or another, and it's 3 fellows that he's going to kill. So the state penitentiary puts him to death. Of course, that's probably not going to be the end of him because it's a horror movie, and this is where the science fiction aspect comes into place. These scientists pay off some guy at the prison to have his body because they want to do tests on him, and it's a lot like Frankenstein, and they're doing tests to cure cancer. But instead of curing cancer, of course, they bring Lon Chaney Jr. back to life, and Lon Chaney Jr., he still remembers everything, but he can't speak. And it's interesting because there's a reason for that, for him not. The only time Lon Chaney Jr. speaks in the entire movie is in the opening scene of the film. He probably has, I can probably count his lines on 2 hands, maybe 1 hand. But there's a reason for that. It's because he was an alcoholic. He drank so much. And it's interesting because in The Black Castle, which I have reviewed previously, that came out a few years earlier, prior to this movie, he didn't have any lines in that film either. He was just, and the reason for that was because he was drinking all the time too. So Lon Chaney Jr. seriously had drinking problems to the point where he couldn't speak in movies. So don't expect him to be talking in this. The way that they show his emotions are through extreme close-ups of his eyes. That's why I was doing that crazy eye thing. So he looks like a madman when they do those close-ups. So basically the plot is him looking for these 3 guys. He's indestructible because that's the more science fiction, is through the electroshock. He can't take bullets. Bullets don't hurt him. He has extreme strength. In fact, he can lift up cars, and there's a really kind of freakish scene where he's killing a crippled man, and it's one of his old con buddies. When he's killing his old buddy who's a cripple, he completely picks him up, and they're in San Francisco. He throws him like he's a rag doll down a very steep street. And it's, when I saw it, I was like, whoa, that was crazy. But that scene was a eye popper. Also, let's see, another crazy scene was towards the end of the movie. They start using flamethrowers on him, and it was very creepy, the makeup they did to show that he was basically burned on his face. His face was melting, and I thought he actually looked pretty scary when his face was burned. Other than that, The movie was pretty silly. It's real short. I think it's 70 minutes long. Max Showalter, he's such a goofy detective. Um, and he's the whole movie he's hitting on this female burlesque dancer. And okay, this is a spoiler alert. So if you're gonna see the movie, skip this until and then come back. But it's so funny because at the end of the movie he says, "I got you fired from your job," and she's like, "What? Why? Why would you do that?" And he's like, "Because you can't work when you're married to me." And he's just such a goofy dude, and it was such a cringe ending. But anyways, honestly, guys, I'm not gonna recommend you watching this movie. There's so many more better horror flicks out there, but hey, if you're into this type of film, it's kind of a cult movie, I would say, but it's not scary at all. It's kind of silly, but definitely watch it if you're into that. I'm happy to be back doing these spooky reviews, but until next time, see you guys.